Right. Let's start. So this is the third lecture. Title for this lecture: Use of Lexicon Thesaurus, Part 1. Introduction. So introduction. For the useful thesaurus, the dictionary. In its narrowest sense, a synonym is a word or phrase that's perfectly substitutable in a context for another word or phrase. People who study language professionally agree that there is no such thing as an ideal synonym, for it's virtually impossible to find two words or phrases that are identical in denotation, meaning, connotation, frequency, familiarity, and appropriateness. Indeed, linguists have long noted the economy of language, which suggests that no language permits a perfect fit in all respects between any two words or phrases. Many examples of overlapping can be cited. The more obvious ones in English are those that reflect a duplication arising from Germanic and Romance sources, like motherly and maternal, farming and agriculture. Teach and instruct in such pairs. The native English form is often the one with the earthier, warmer connotation. In some instances, where a new coinage or a loan word has been adopted inadvertently, duplicating an existing term, creating true synonyms. The two will quickly diverge, not necessarily in meaning. Any synonym book must be seen as a compromise that relies on the sensitivity of its users to the idiomatic nuances. To the idiomatic nuances of the language. In its best applications, it serves to remind users of words similar in meaning that might not spring readily to mind, and to offer lists of words and phrases that are alternatives to and compromises for those that might otherwise be overused and therefore redundant, repetitious, and boring. The Oxford Thesaurus goes a step further by offering example sentences to illustrate the uses of the head words and their alternatives in natural idiomatic contexts. So it's about the Oxford Thesaurus. It's about this dictionary, right? Let's carry on. The introduction about the use of Thesaurus dictionary. Number 1, selection of head words. Two criteria have been employed. First, head words have been selected because of their frequency in the language, on assumption that synonyms are more likely to be sought for the words that are most used. Second, some head words of lower frequency have been included because it would otherwise be impossible to find a suitable place to group together what are perceived as useful sets of synonyms with their attendant illustrative sentences. Number 2, illustrative sentences. On the principle that a word is known by the company it keeps, one or more sentences showing the main entry word in context are provided for each sense discrimination. These have been carefully selected to demonstrate the use of the main entry in a context story likely to be encountered in familiar written or spoken ordinary English. Right? What else? Let's carry on. Next page, sorry. Number 3, as an introduction for this dictionary, the Zor's Oxford Dictionary. 3. Synonym lists. Right. Each main entry is followed by one or more sense groupings, each illustrated by one or more sentences. An effort has been made to group the synonyms semantically as well as syntactically and idiomatically. That is, each synonym listed within a given set should prove to be more or less substitutable for the main entry in the illustrative sentence. Number 4, cross-references. There are very few cross-references between main listenings in the thesaurus. Where such cross-references do occur, they are simple and straightforward. Superior adjective. 3. See supercilious above. Number 4, see supervisor below. As an example, a number of cross-references occur within entries between variant forms of an expression. As the entry for take, for example, as one can say either take or take it in the sense of understand, etc. The option is shown in the following way. Take as a verb. Number 19, understand, gather, interpret, perceive, apprehend, deduce, conclude, infer, judge, deem, assume, suppose, imagine. See, I take him to be a fool. I take it from your expression that you have had bad news. Right, next page. Number 5, labels. A. All words and phrases that are recognized as being typical of a particular variety of English, whether geographical or stylistic, are labeled. It might at first seem that a large number of colloquial, slang, and taboo words have been included. The labels used are those commonly encountered in ordinary dictionaries. Here we mean colloquial, informal, used in everyday conversation and writing, especially in the popular press and in dramatic dialogue, sometimes avoided where more formal language is felt to be appropriate, as in business. Correspondence, scholarly works, technical reports, documents, etc. Slang, belonging to the most informal register and characteristic of spoken English, often originating in the cult language of a particular socio-cultural group, not sufficiently elevated to be used in most writing, aside from dialogue, although often found in the popular press and frequently heard on popular radio and television programs. Taboo. It means what? Not used in polite society, usually because of the risk of offending sexual or religious or cultural sensibilities, occasionally encountered on late night television and radio, often occurring in graffiti and in dialogue in novels, plays, and films. Archaic, describing an obsolete word or phrase, like tickety bolong, tickety boo, long, lizard, that is used deliberately to invoke the feeling of bygone time. Old-fashioned. What do we mean when we find this in the dictionary? Old-fashioned. Use it of a synonym like confetti that is no longer current but might occasionally be encountered among older speakers and in older writing. Technical, used of somewhat specialized word that is not commonly encountered in ordinary everyday English, like defalcator, which appears as a synonym under swindler. Literary describes a word like ochre, ocha, it means to cheat. That is not usually met within everyday language, right? Even of the formal genre, but may be found in poetry and other literary works. This word, Brit, what do we mean by this in this dictionary? US and Australian, Canadian, New Zealand, marks a word or phrase that occurs mainly in the designated variety. The meanings of other labels are self-evident. B. All labels can occur in combination. Usage labels always take precedence over regional labels. For example, pushover, number 1. Sure thing. Colloq, it means colloquial. Piece of cake. Child's play. Snap. Picnic. Walkover. Here we mean US in America. US please. Slang, cinch. Bridge, in British English, doodle. US English, lead pipe, cinch. Here, sure thing is standard universal English. All words and phrases following colloquial up to the slang label are colloquial. Piece of cake, walkover are universal colloquial English. Please is US colloquial. All synonyms following the slang label are slang. Cinch is universal English slang. Doodle is confirmed to British slang. And lead pipe cinch is confined to American slang. Talented adjectives: colloquial, ace, crack, top-notch, British wizard, wizzo, US English, crackerjack. In this entry, all synonyms shown are colloquial. Ace, crack, top-notch being universal English, wizard, wizzo, British, and crackerjack is US English, American English. Right. Okay. To incorrect usage are generally avoided. For example, the non-standard use of between in context referring to more than two of anything or of among in contexts involving fewer than three goes unmarked. However, if the usage question is confined to what can easily be represented in a lexical environment, then suitable treatment is accorded it. Thus, now and at present are labeled non-standard under presently. D. Main entry words and sub-entries are not labeled, only the synonyms. Thus, under beat appears the idiomatic expression beat it, which is not labeled. 8 here, beat it, depart, leave, abscond, run off or away. Slang, US English, take it on the lam. Lam out of here, hit the road. You'd better beat it before the cops come. The idiom is not labeled because it is assumed that the user has looked it up to find a substitute for it. Hence, needs no information about it other than a listing of its alternatives, which are labeled when appropriate. An illustrative example. A rare exception to the above rule occurs where a head word has one meaning in British English and quite a different meaning in mother regional variety. Thus, subway, number one, in American English, underground, which is railway. Tube, example, she takes the subway to work. 2, in Britain, tunnel, underpass, use the subway to cross the road in safety. Now E, synonyms bearing any kind of label appear at the end of the set in which they are listed, except in the case described immediately. 6, spelling and other variants. The spellings shown throughout are those preferred by most modern British writers. British variant spellings are shown. If they are variants of the main entry word, they appear as the first word in sets of synonyms following. Mousy adjective, number 1, mousy. Movable adjective, movable. Right? Here, different spelling, S-E, S-Y here, but here different spelling, S-E-Y. Here different spelling, V-A-B, but here V-E-A-B. Such variants are also shown when they appear within an entry. Movable as an adjective, transferable or transferable with double R. Common American spelling variants, humor, traveler, and revealed are not shown, but less common ones are listed for convenience, where both forms are variants in American spelling. They are described by or US. Also, accoutrements or US also accoutrements or US also accoutrements. Phony or US also phony. This should be understood to mean the normal British spelling is accoutrements, or phony. This form together with accoutrements or phony occurs in American English. 7. Substitutability. A. The purpose of a synonym book is to provide the user with a collection of words that are as close as possible in meaning to a designated word. The Oxford Thesaurus tries to go to a step further by providing examples that not only illustrate the main entry word in a natural contextual environment, but also allow the user to substitute as many of the synonyms as possible into the framework of the context. For example, porous as an adjective, spongy, sponge-like, permeable, previous, penetrable. The rainwater runs through the porous rock and collects in the pools below. B. Some judgment is required of the user in determining the syntax and idiomaticity with which a given word or expression can be substituted in an illustrative context. Words are rarely as readily interchangeable in a context as might be components in a chemical or mathematical formula. Moreover, while such formula are reflective of science, language offers its users the virtually infinite variety available only in art, with each individual speaker of any language being presented with the opportunity to become an artist. In the following example, nearly all terms can be substituted for adjoining in the first illustrative sentence to create idiomatic parallels to the second sentence. The parenthetical prepositions must be used. Adjoining adjective, neighboring, continuous to, adjacent to, abutting, bordering, next to. We have bought the adjoining land and will build our new house there. The hand adjoining the supermarket is for sale. C. There are other reasons why direct substitutability is not always possible within a single semantic concept. The following extract demonstrates this. Possess as a verb, number 3 here, to dominate, to control, to govern, to consume, to take control of, to preoccupy, to obsess, to charm, to captivate, to enchant, cast a spell on or over, bewitch, enthrall. What possessed her to think that I could help. He behaves as if he is possessed by the devil. Here, two aspects of the same sense have been divided by a semicolon, with the synonyms preceding the semicolon illustrated by the first contextual example and those following it by the second. While it may be argued that in this instance the synonyms following the semicolon with their illustrative sentence might better have been listed in a separately numbered set, the close semantic occasion of the two groups would thereby have been lost. D. Sometimes where the substance is familiar enough not to require its own example, yet needs to be set off from the other synonyms because of subtle or aspectual semantic distinction. A semicolon is inserted among the synonyms and only one example is provided. Practice number 2, exercise. Discipline, drill, practicing, repetition, rehearsal, training, preparation, workout, warm up, application, study. Example, she needs more practice on the beginner's slope before going down the main piste. The idiomatic usage of the sense of study and application is sufficiently familiar not to require separate example. On the other hand, a second example is needed for the next sense of a practice. 3. Pursuit, exercise, work, profession, career. E. Often the semicolon may be used to separate transitive uses of a verb from intransitive. Preach as a verb, number 2, moralize, sermonize, advise, counsel, admonish, reprimand, lecture, harangue, pontificate, urge, urge, include, advocate. Mother used it to preach to us about being charitable. Father preached restraint in all things. Because of the behavior of verbs in English, different synonyms may be required depending on what the object of the verb is and often whether the object is a word or a phrase or a clause. Example, predict as a verb, foretell, prophecy, forecast, foresee, augur, prognosticate, forewarn, presage, vaticinate, portend, foreshadow, foretoken, forebode, intimate, hint, suggest. My mother predicated that there would be moments like this. If only I could predict the winner of the 2.30. F. Wherever possible, the proper prepositional or adverbial particle normally accompanying a verb in a certain sense has been supplied, though it must be emphasized that the one offered is the most. Right? Frequently used and not necessarily the only one acceptable in standard usage, particle used with some words may vary considerably owing not only to dialect variation but also to whether the verb is used actively or passively, as well as to which nuance of meaning, sometimes far too subtle to be dealt with. To be dealt with adequately in a book of this kind is to be expressed. In some adjective senses, a split might occur between attributive and predicative uses, though in most such cases where the syntax is open, only one, usually common, illustration is given. For example, alone is used only predicatively or positively, not attributively. That is, one cannot say an alone woman. In this particular case, the normal attributive form would be lone, but lone is not listed as a synonym for alone because they are not mutually substitutable. It is acknowledged that the detailed description of the special syntactic ways in which certain words like alone, agog, galore, behave lies outside the province of this book. Although similar cautions must be observed and adjustments made through, it's hoped that the illustrative sentences will provide a substantial basis for the user to identify idiomatic words or idiomatic phrases. Right? Right, so let's continue the thesaurus introduction. So for this lecture now we have summary. We read here the nature of a thesaurus, the reference book, thesaurus. The thesaurus as a reference tool dates back to 1852. And the publication of Roget's thesaurus, this or some modern equivalent, is probably what the majority of people have in mind when they think of a thesaurus. Captain Hook's thesaurus in the quotation at the top of the chapter is almost certainly a reference to Roget, but Roget's thesaurus has a fundamentally different purpose from the sort of thesaurus which will be discussed in this book. Most information professionals would consider Roget to be a type of classification scheme because it organizes its vocabulary in a systematic manner. In other words, it is a list of concepts or ideas which are arranged so that similar concepts are next to each other. The example in figure 2.1 overleaf, taken from a digital version of Roget, shows part of the list of conceptual classes. Right? Okay. As you can see, this consists of a list of synonyms or near synonyms for the head word gathered together and arranged by parts of speech. A thesaurus of this type is a guide to the English language organized conceptually, and incidentally it makes a map of knowledge. Thesauri on the Roget model are extremely useful reference tools because they constitute a complement to the dictionary. While the dictionary tells you the meanings of words you know, the thesaurus enables you to find words you don't know but of which you do know the meaning. So we can say this is the answer for a question, what is a thesaurus? Right? Right. So we can say, while the dictionary, the normal dictionary, tells you the meanings of words you know, okay, the thesaurus enables you to find words you don't know but of which you do know the meaning. Essentially, they are synonym and antonym finders. This is the thesaurus, right? Thesaurus dictionaries, right? They are synonyms and antonym finders. Nowadays, most major reference book publishers include a thesaurus along with their dictionaries because it's such a useful tool for writers at any level. Writers at any level, be they students, academics, and journalists, or professional writers of fiction or non-fiction. Interestingly, the very earliest dictionaries in English were organized in this systematic fashion, and it was only later that an alphabetic arrangement was adopted. Right? Okay, let's go to the next page for the summary. Now, the essence of the retrieval thesaurus is that it is an organized and structured list of terms and not just a random selection. Right? It's again as a definition for what's a thesaurus. The essence of the retrieval thesaurus is that it is, so from here, It is an organized and structured list of terms and not just a random selection. Each term in the alphabetical sequence is accompanied by cross-references to other terms in the vocabulary. Why is this? This helps the indexer navigate the vocabulary and select the most suitable terms for describing documents. Right? Okay. When indexers look up a term in the thesaurus, the cross-references alert them to more general terms, more specific terms, and to terms related in other ways. The thesaurus also helps indexers choose between synonyms and near synonyms when these occur. These aids helps to navigating the content are a vital part of the thesaurus proper. Without them, it's only a word list, which is most less useful for indexing. Right? Okay. Now a question here which needs an answer, and you find it in the exercise page, inshallah. What does a thesaurus look like? Now let's look for an answer for this question here on this page. Figure 2.2, this figure here, adopted from the thesaurus, right? Figure 2.2 shows an example of two entries from a very simple thesaurus. This is how a thesaurus book or dictionary looks like this. For example, you find the film, and under this entry, under the word film, you find audiovisual media, moving images, photographs, slides, film libraries, sound recordings. That's what we call the thesaurus way. Right? So, figure 2.2 shows an example of two entries here, film and film libraries, from a very simple thesaurus which I compiled with students on the MA Library and Information Studies program. This is written, of course, by the author of this book, right? The display uses a standard format for thesauri, and you can see the way in which the user is referred to other terms in the vocabulary, right? How they refer to the vocabulary, right? We shall look at what the different codes mean in a later chapter, right? Different codes here, BT, NT, and so on, right? The extract, it means part, from the much longer DH or DSS or data thesaurus 2, you find in figure 2.3 later overleaf, which is used at the Department of Health Library. Also employs a typical format. The thesaurus is particularly associated with a word-based or alphabetic approach to information retrieval, and is often contrasted with the classification scheme with its systematic structure. In a word-based system, the terms themselves are used for, here we have entries for simple thesaurus here, right? Right, next page. As we see here, essential thesaurus construction. Here, what does a thesaurus look like? Here we have this entry or term boys, we have children, men, boys physiology, use, male physiology. Braces, orthotic devices. Brachial arteries, here anti-brachial, arteries, and here arteries. Bracken, ferns and poisonous plants. Bracknell, Berkshire, and so on. Alphabetic display in the DH or DSS data thesaurus. Here, labeling the documents and for searching and retrieval, whereas the classification scheme uses notational codes as labels. Classification schemes, subject heading lists, and thesauri are all different examples of structured vocabularies, which are also known as controlled indexing. As what? Controlled indexing languages. See chapter 3. Right. Now, applications of the thesaurus. Nowadays, the thesaurus is the preferred indexing tool for archivists and records managers, and also for librarians working with digital resources. Whether this is in a local information surface or in more widely accessible digital resource, the thesaurus may be used wherever there is a need for terms to describe the subject content of documents. This may be by adding descriptors to the subject field of a record in an automated catalog or bibliographic database or other tool used to manage a specific collection of documents. Figure 2.4 later طبعا shows part of a record from the database of an online abstracting surface with thesaurus terms in the index term section. This is one of the commonest uses of the thesaurus today. Such applications of the thesaurus can be seen in catalogs, online databases, and in bibliographical tools such as abstracting and indexing surfaces. A recent development of this kind of indexing is the use of thesauri to provide subject keywords in various metadata schemes for web published documents. Figure 2.5 shows the application of a thesaurus called the Integrated Public Sector Vocabulary, IPSV, which is used to provide subject terms in the UK e-government, here electronic government metadata system, EGMS. Right, next. Now the summary for this. Right, the summary here. So, reference thesauri are systematically arranged lists of concepts used as synonym and antonym finders. So the reference thesauri are what? Systematically arranged lists of concepts used as synonym and antonym finders. Right. What else? Information retrieval thesauri employ an alphabetical display of terms, often complemented by a systematic display. A thesaurus must have a proper system of cross-referencing. A thesaurus can be used wherever there is a need to describe the subject content of resources. It's often used for indexing in databases or as a source of subject metadata. Now, the origin and development of the thesaurus. Information retrieval using subject words in the form of headings was popular from the 19th century onwards, as can be seen from the early proliferation, right, of printed subject indexes and catalogs of libraries. Formal standards for subject indexing began to appear in the early 20th century in the form of published subject heading lists, such as the Library of Congress subject headings or SEERS, subject headings for a small library, and so on. Right? That was a summary. Right? Now, we come to a short exercise on this lecture. Exercise here. Right? You can do this kind of an exercise in a piece of paper in your sheet. You write the answers, check them, and keep them with you to prepare later, inshallah, for the exams. It says here, answer these questions. Right? Question 1. What is a thesaurus? Right. Try to read back since the first page for this lecture. Try to check all the pages. You will find somehow an explanation or a definition for what is a thesaurus, and then write the answer for this together, the question and the answer, in a separated sheet or in a separated paper. You write it and you keep it with you later. 2. How is thesaurus organized? I mean here, how a thesaurus book or how is thesaurus dictionary organized? You find the answer since the beginning of this lecture. At the beginning, maybe second or third page, you find the answer for how is a thesaurus organized. And always I say it, try to give short answer, not necessary to give the full detailed answer. Short as soon as possible or as possible as you can. How is a thesaurus organized? 3. Talk about the selection of headwords in a thesaurus book or in a thesaurus dictionary. Talk about it. How do we select, or how do they select headwords? Talk about headwords in a thesaurus. In your sheet or in a piece of paper for this lecture, you write the answer. Talk about the selection of headwords in a thesaurus dictionary or in a thesaurus book. 4. What does a thesaurus look like? You find it, the answer for this at the end of this lecture. Maybe 2 or 3 pages at the end, you find the answer at the top of the page. What does a thesaurus look like? You give an example. You find a figure, maybe figure 2.1 or 2.2, a figure for 2 entries, 2 words, and how they look like, the shape, and you try to write a paragraph about it. Try to explain it, right? Okay. So write the answer in your own sheet here or in a piece of paper, and write at the top of this paper, exercise for lecture number 2. Is it number 2 or 3? I'm not sure yet. Right? Anyway, write it's the exercise for a lecture for thesaurus introduction part 1. Right? And keep it with you later, inshallah. When we'll have the exam, our questions will be from these questions and the previous questions. Okay? Anyway, we stop here. Time is finished for lecture or for this lecture. thank you very much. Good luck. Right? See you inshallah next lecture. And don't forget, these videos sometimes are not enough. You should have the PDF for these lectures, for this book, right? You will find it inshallah in the e-portal for this university. I will put a copy from these books or these sheets, and you may take a copy and answer at home all the exercises and check from the video and from the sheet itself. Right? Thank you. See you. Goodbye. Goodbye.